If you hate the feeling of silicone tips being jammed into your ear canal, or you get particularly sweaty in your ears when you're working out, you want to stop scrolling, because these weird looking things might just solve that problem altogether. After watching so many YouTube videos talking about these guys, that there are a couple of things that are missing, and I'm not sure if it's on purpose or just because they didn't come across that one issue, which I'll discuss further on. We'll dissect everything about these little guys, including the sound quality coming out of them, thanks to the head of Steve. Steve is a binaural microphone that allows us to test different types of headsets for you to hear the difference between how they sound versus something like Apple AirPods 3 Pro. We'll talk about the build quality, how they stay in your ears when you're working out. We'll talk about the sound quality when you're making calls with them. We'll talk about the battery life, the app, which is we'll get back to that. And also the latency when watching movies and gaming, because this is how they're being marketed by SoundPeats. If you're an audiophile, these are absolutely not for you. You can skip this video. The reason these exist is for you to be able to listen to the music or podcast whilst knowing what's going on around you, because they are an open ear design. Now, this is not something I ever came across. They look, I think it's a matter of style, but yeah, they kind of look like you don't want to commit to having your earlobes extended. Well, I can't have earlobes extended. I'm missing one here. Official story is that I lost it in a bar fight. We'll stick to that. If you look closely, the build quality is better than I actually expected. When watching marketing materials before the brand reached out to me to test these, by the way, they sent them for free, but they can't see the video before I publish it. Like with all my videos, if you're sending me products and they are rubbish, everyone's gonna know about it. So stay tuned. As I was saying, the build quality is really good. I wouldn't say this is like a Bose good or Apple, but it's not really far off. They certainly don't feel cheap, if you catch my meaning. The weight of these is insane. They're about 5 grams each. Genuine benefit of those 5 grams is the fact that you can't really feel them on your ears. I've managed to pull off pretty much my whole workday, including actually working, but also watching movies, gaming, and also walking my dog. And yeah, they've done, first of all, pretty well. We'll talk about battery life later. But the major thing was that I kind of didn't really realize that they were sitting just behind my ear. The fit and comfort is a pretty massive thing, because I've mentioned at the very beginning of this video, for some people having that silicone stuffed inside of their ears isn't very comfortable. And I don't think it's comfortable for anyone really. Whereas all the open ear headphones are my kind of jam, because if I'm walking anywhere, or I'm running or cycling, I really want to hear what's going on around me. At the same time, I don't want to compromise the sound quality altogether. So things like bone conducting headphones are good for spatial awareness, but the sound quality kind of sucks, and also you get a massive vibration in your skull. I'm happy to report that these survived the shake test, when running at least, and mind you, I run like an elephant, or Phoebe from Friends, take your pick, and yeah, they stayed in place, just pretty much like any other open-ear headphones I've tested, but with them being so light, my main issue is that I'm gonna keep losing them, and so far so good. I had them for 2 weeks, I've used them constantly, I had 0 issues of them falling off, or feeling them that they're still there actually. Let's jump into audio samples. So we'll compare the SoundPeats Clip 1 to the AirPods 3 Pros. I know it's not a fair comparison, because as we established, these are not designed to be competing with any top-end headphones. However, let's just use the AirPods 3 Pros as the baseline, and then we'll chuck them on the same tracks so you can tell the difference. Now, important thing here to consider is that the levels of bass or clarity will definitely depend on what you're listening to this video on. So if you're having massive bassy speakers, obviously that's gonna distort the whole thing. So it's just using headphones. But again, this is more for you to tell the difference between these two, more than actually knowing exactly how they sound, because that's really, really hard to replicate. Steve, the floor is yours, mate.
Found myself in a cardboard box. Now I can't escape. Found myself in a cardboard box. Feelings hidden deep down. I found us back, now I can't escape.
Oh, we're rolling. Sorry. So I've got two questions for you. What do you think about this testing method? But also, what do you think about the difference between the AirPods and the Clip 1? What I think the Clip 1 is just adequate, but definitely lacks the bass. Now, the reason for lack of bass is quite obvious. It doesn't seal off your ears, so therefore most of that stuff kind of goes out the window. Now, one thing to remember is that these sound best in kind of a medium to mid-high maybe. Once you get past certain threshold, the sound gets distorted. Now, what you probably noticed that mids and highs were pretty clear and crisp, and sadly, once you get too high with the volume, that crispness becomes so bright, it becomes unusable. These headphones support LDAC, but basically what LDAC does, on the surface of it at least, it tightens the low end and increases the separation of instruments from vocals, and I think this is doing a pretty good job. It also has an option for Dolby Audio. Typically in cheaper headsets that means nothing, the sound just gets a little bit echoey. In this case, however, if you're watching movies or playing games, the ambient sound feel a little bit more natural, so there is a merit to this. Don't expect some insane sound quality when you switch that toggle on, but it's decent enough for, again, $50. Since we talked about the movies and games, how do they perform? Well, let's just say I wouldn't swap my standard headset for these, but if you are out and about or you want to hear what's going on around you, for that purpose, having something that's open ear is kinda handy. Now, when you switch that gaming mode on, the latency is almost unnoticeable. Actually, I couldn't notice it. I'm saying barely unnoticeable to look a little bit more of like a pro gamer, you know? But no, honestly, there is such a little latency that probably for most of us, we wouldn't be able to tell. If you're a pro gamer though, obviously, get a headset that's wired that has even less latency. But for majority of uses, these are spot on. When watching YouTube or watching movies on Netflix, I haven't noticed any issues between the voice and lip sync. It just works. It's Bluetooth 5.4, so there shouldn't be any problems. I've tested this on the iPhone 16 Pro, the 17 Pro, and Samsung Galaxy that I borrowed off my mate, and it's, yeah, the results are exactly the same across the board. Let's jump into audio quality when you're out and about.
This is how they sound outdoors. It's really windy right now. So if there's any noise cancellation, like the ultimate test. I know someone asked me to run with the headphones when I'm talking or taking calls. Who does that? Like, how can you run and talk to people without sounding like you're dying? So anyway, this is how they sound outdoors. So this is how they sound when driving 60 miles an hour in an empty van that's rocking and shaking and has loads of different ambient noise happening to it. I have no idea how it sounds. Drop me down a comment below and let me know what do you think about it.
So just for comparison's sake, these are Apple AirPods 3 Pros. Let's see what the difference is between these ones and the Soundpeats.
Back to the studio.
So it doesn't sound horrible, but also, let's not kid ourselves, it's not the best noise cancellation on a phone call you've ever heard. The point is, people on the other side can hear you. It's still better to raise your phone up to your mouth, but yeah, for $50, it's workable. Now, since we were in the middle of the forest, there's another thing, the battery life. As I've mentioned before, I spent pretty much the whole working day in these, so that's about 6-7 hours in my case, and they were still alive at the end of it, although it was somewhere less than 10% of battery left. Now, the brand claims you get about 8 hours on a full charge, and the case gives you combined 40 hours of listening time. Thankfully, this is getting adopted across the board. You get a fast charge, so if you drop them in a case, for 10 minutes you get 2 hours of playback time. Now, about the app, it feels kind of unfinished. It's not that it's horrible or anything, but you can tell there are some little bugs here and there. Like this bug here, when you've got a monet asking you for permission to access your location data, which I don't normally grant to pretty much anything, really, but you've got to cancel in English and accept or settings in Chinese. you know what I mean? It feels like they kind of got there, but they need to polish it up and polish it up quickly. Other than this, it's a box standard headphones up. You can adjust your EQ settings to your custom model, or you can use one of the presets. You can toggle on and off the Dolby, or switch between the gaming mode and the standard mode, also between music and movies. Now, I said I've got an issue with this that doesn't seem to be being mentioned anywhere, is the fact that there is no native way of volume control on these. You can customize gestures on these within the app, but you're very limited, so it's either double tap or triple tap. And then you've got two different earphones to either triple tap on one side to increase the volume, triple tap on the other, but then you have no options to pause and play, or you don't have an option to skip track or go backwards. So one thing that would be really nice to see on these is an option like having like one physical button. I'm a big sucker for physical buttons. Physical button for the win here. And yeah, you can do the slidey thingy, maybe, for volume in the next generation of these. If this is not an issue, it's not an issue. And you can obviously just map it up so you've got only taps for going forward, play and pause, and volume up and down. That's doable. But if you have to double tap to do one increment each time to increase the volume, it gets very tedious. And this is the other thing. I've mentioned it's left or right. There is not left or right when you take them out of the box because they detect themselves if you've got one in the left ear and in the right one. It doesn't really matter which one you're going to put in which ear. Your app connected to these guys will detect it itself, which is pretty cool. So listen, honestly, who are these for? If you're working out and you need something super light in your ears, they are great. If you're cycling in the busy streets or running in a busy environment, you know you need to be aware of your surroundings, but you don't want to splash out on the top-end sport headphones like the Shokz Open Run Pros, which are basically, well, in the worst case scenario, quadruple the price. These do an excellent job at being exactly what they are, which is decent open-ear headphones that don't break a bank. If you're an audiophile, you need to look somewhere else. And as always, if you have any questions about these guys, or comments about the video, or you want me to test any other headphones on the market, drop a comment below and I'll harass the companies to send them to me. Have a good one, I'll see you in the next one.